you've already told me a lot about the things that have inspired you. So is there some people in your life that have inspired you as well?
Yeah, well, I have people in real life,
Yeah.
and then people, you know, that I aspire to be like and who inspire me. But I think my mum and my dad, who both had to leave school before they got secondary education. My dad went and worked on the ships. He was a sailor like his father before him and his brothers for a good while before he moved to London. And my mother was sent away in Imshire, they say in Irish, which means in service.
Right.
And she basically had to raise the children for her auntie, who had a succession of like loads and loads of little children. Bearing in mind it was the days when they didn't have washing machines, they didn't have much space. It was a pub, they lived on the top of a pub. And she worked really, really hard until her sister, who was the one who did get to go to secondary school, her older sister, came back from London and scooped her away and took her over there. But she's had a tough life, my mum, you know, she's had a really tough life, and you wouldn't see it, you know, to anyone who knows her before the Alzheimer's, but even with the Alzheimer's would say she's always been very joyous, very funny, very, very optimistic. And I think as a child that was great. As a teenager I did recoil from that a bit. I went through a bit of a cynical, dark phase.
Stop being so positive.
Jesus. I remember slagging off one of my friends who rocked up when we were in uni with The Road Less Travelled. Do you remember that book?
Yeah.
And we were like, this is pathetic, and now I quote from it. Like,
Yeah, that's one of my favourite Robert Frost poems as well.
But I did, you know, I did find she like, I think I'm lucky in that. And I know that some of our optimism, actually about 49%, I mean, the jury's still out on that. But there's been studies, there's a woman called Sonia Lieber-Mersky. She's done a lot of study into, do we inherit optimism? And she found that roughly 49% is inherited. Of, you know, how, whether we look at things in a pessimistic way or an optimistic way. And the rest you can build on. Yeah, so that means you've got 50% control of your happiness, which is amazing, isn't it?
That's good odds.
But I think for me, I do have that, whatever it is, that optimistic gene. I'll always look for the glass full, overflowing most of the time if I'm talking about booze. But yeah, so mum for sure. I found desperate to find somebody to help me with the Artist's Way about 10 years ago. I found Helen Collins, who I mentioned earlier, who also became a counsellor. Because she's a trained psychotherapist, but also an Artist's Way facilitator. So she got me into the morning pages and made me aware of internal family systems and the fact that you can parent yourself and that sometimes your inner toddler comes out, and made me very, very aware of the inner critic. So I did a lot of inner child work with her, and she still proves to be a wonderful inspiration to me to this day. And we meet once a month for the Artist's Way Collective. There's a bunch of us who still meet and have done for years. And that was a lifeline to me when I stopped drinking and I left the relationship that I was in 4 years ago. That was really, really helpful. So she's an inspiration. Lucy Rocker, I've mentioned before, who founded Soberistas. I just can't talk about sobriety without talking about that woman, because it's this quiet, dignified, you know, she's not loud. You probably don't know of her. Most people hear about sober heroes, and there's a few people in the media who they'll say, oh, such and such and such and such. But Lucy Rocker's been there for years in the background, just building that wonderful online community that has 80,000 followers. Nobody, you know, she doesn't really bang a drum. And I think she should be made a dame. She's amazing, you know. So she's definitely an inspiration, because she, you know, when I said believing plus beginning equals becoming, at the beginning of that believing stage, I have to share with people that sometimes you don't have that believing, you don't have that belief in yourself. You have to borrow somebody else's belief. And I very much borrowed Lucy's belief and the belief of the Soberista people who were ahead of me. So that my sober community, my sober friends, they're an inspiration to me. And my kids, they inspire me every day to try. I hate using that word, to be a better person.
Well, I think something you've touched on there is the tribe element. So your Artist's Way tribe, your sober tribe, and I think that's really important, isn't it?
Well spotted. And do you know what I did my dissertation on? Social connection. And it was actually about soberistas.
Yeah.
What I used was Barbara Fredrickson's model of flourishing for the broaden and build theory. It was a qualitative analysis. So I interviewed lots and lots of people in the community. And anonymously they came. They weren't all my mates, like, and the overarching finding was that being sober, leads to flourishing, but the connection is essential. And Johan Hari, I don't know if you've ever read Lost Connections. It's brilliant. He's great. He's done a lot of stuff on stolen focus as well.
Oh, Stolen Focus I've read.
He's great.
That was a life-changing book, actually.
But his takeaway from when he did research into tribes and social connection was the opposite to addiction is connection.
Yes, that is spot on.
So, and that's where I think public speaking, what we do in the podcasting world, what you do on stage, what I do on stage, what we do in workshops, speaking out, it gives a voice, gives our voice space, but it gives people space to realise what their own voice is and to connect.
Yeah, because there is a lot of isolation, and it's a very difficult challenge to become sober in isolation. And that's, we've got an epidemic of loneliness, haven't we?
We have.
Even with people who are within family units, would say they're lonely. So that connection is vital. Yeah, and because there's so much fragmentation, isn't there? The kids are going to their rooms to watch their own content. We're downstairs watching something else. Granddad's somewhere else watching or listening to something else. And it's really, it's making sure, that's why I love The Office, for the connection, for the humour, because I know that the 12-year-old, the 18-year-old and me will all watch that and enjoy it equally. Yeah. So it is so significant to have that connection. And I don't know, you probably know the stat, it's like smoking 15 fags a day. Yeah. It's the same on your
loneliness,
health.
Loneliness. Yeah. That's terrible, isn't it? I mean, that's wrong.
But it's not widely known, is it? No. I mean, we've said about the Unstressable book, and Mo said, we think COVID was the biggest pandemic we've ever had. And it's actually stress. And we're just blindly wandering around thinking it's normal to live in stress. Normal, and normal to feel lonely,
not
normal
just
to feel isolated.
But a badge of honour, Mary.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I did when I was finishing, when I was leaving? Now I know now what it's called. There's a term for it. It's called quiet quitting. I didn't know.
Yes, I've heard of that, yeah.
But I used to, just as an experiment, because again, the old research thing, I just started to observe everybody rushing in the place where I was working. And I just threw a complete spanner in the works. I got great joy walking slowly in corridors. It wound everyone up, especially management. Yeah. Because if you're seen to be walking slowly, you don't look busy. You don't look purposeful, productive. Yeah. I saw that as an ultimate act of rebellion, which I now know is a term that post-COVID, with the great resignation and everything. But it's because I was just so sick and tired of seeing people sick and tired because of the busyness and the noise, that some of it's optional. Yeah. Some of it's optional.
And I think a lot of people could do their job probably in 4 hours a day.
We know that since COVID, don't we? Yeah. We found that out. We also found that out in homeschooling a little bit as well, didn't we?
Yeah. And a lot of it is just filling time. Yeah. So I remember I think it was a council building, and I was going for a meeting, and I must have been early, and everyone had a piece of paper in their hand. Yeah. And I thought that you're just carrying that piece of paper, so that if anyone stops you, it looks like you're busy, and you've probably just been for 20-minute break in the toilet, or you've been for your fag break, but you're carrying a piece of paper, therefore you must be doing something.
You look so busy.
Yeah, it really amused me at the time.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. But I think, be honest with yourself. Because when you start to strip things away, like COVID for me, I knew what I'm very good at nodding my head in official situations with officious people who say, you must do this, this and this, and going, yeah, grand. And then walking away and going, yeah, that's not going to happen, mate. and then just doing my own thing. In fact, I met an NQT teacher this very morning, and that was the advice I imparted. I said, just nod your head, say nothing, just nod your head, carry on, do your own thing then. Yeah. And she went, great, thanks.
Best advice.
But isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if we say yes to everything, and especially in education, for me, you walk down that corridor and there's kids, blah, 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 Miss, can I get, Mister? There's teachers, did you get my email? Did you, and it's just constant.
Yeah.
And it's chaos from the minute you enter. And it's everybody else's chaos. But walking slowly, staying present, being aware, it freaks everyone out, man. I love it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Even like not being on your phone, like in a queue, for example.
Yeah.
When we're at Lidl or Asda or whatever, and the default is, I'm a queue, so that means I've got 2 minutes with my own thoughts, or I'll get my phone out. So I like one of my purposeful things is not to get my phone out.
That's a great
queues. But you can see people going, wow, she's just staring into space.
What's going on
there?
She's weird. It's funny, isn't it? You know that they've done a test. You know that test? Have you heard about this test? I love these things. They did a test you had an option. So you had a choice of sitting with your thoughts for 15 minutes or pressing a button that gave you an electric shock.
Heard about that. People chose the electric shock.
Most people. Come on, guys. What's going on with us that we can't sit with ourselves? That we'd rather electrocute ourselves than to actually sit. So, I think mindfulness is the backbone of everything when it comes to things like positive psychology and well-being, isn't it? But it's the way we're sold it. We become very standoffish and we don't really want to know about it because it becomes that woo-woo thing. Yeah. That wanky well-being that you were saying, doesn't it? So I think that kind of practical mindfulness is important. So being able to say, be aware of when you wash your hands. I like that. Yeah. Just being aware of, every now and then just taking something, centering yourself and feeling your feet on the ground. Like as I speak to you, I still have sand in my feet from my little swim earlier. Yeah. But it's nice to remind me.
Touchstones, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't know, how did we get onto that?
Well, we're talking about inspiration. So I think you've kind of seamlessly gone into how you want to inspire others, because you've inspired me in the last hour that we've been chatting.
Thank you. So, well, it works both ways.
Yeah. But so can you sum up how you'd like to inspire others?
I would like to inspire people to, if they feel trapped, if they feel that they're living, as Thru would have said, lives of quiet desperation, to know that there's another way. To know that they've got control of their habits, that they've got control of their brain, to understand that, as human beings, we go towards pleasure, we go towards comfort and away from pain and discomfort. And to realise that it isn't necessarily how it should be and how it has to be, and that they have the power to take that back. And I especially want to reach out to anybody listening who might think that alcohol is adding no value to their lives now. Really ask yourself, is this substance? Maybe you've been having this substance since 14, 13. Maybe it's just part of who you are, or you think it is. Start to question yourself, is this adding value to my life? And if it isn't, really be honest. And then do some research and look at the sober tribe that's out there. Get on Instagram. Get on, have a look at This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, get on Soberistas, but realise that you do not have to be rock bottom before you take action, and that applies to everything in your life. Coercive relationships, unhappy marriages, bullying bosses, the wrong purpose, wrong meaning, whatever you're doing in your career, you don't have to wait. Because it's so much easier to wait for the toxic partner to have an affair. Yay, there you go. That's my mind made up. Yeah. Or to wait for the boss to fire you. Not going to happen. Yeah. Or to wait for somebody to have an intervention and say you're drinking too much. Nobody would have ever staged an intervention for me because I didn't drink like that. No. But it was problematic nonetheless.
Yeah, but no one was going to tell you that.
No, but because most of the people didn't really think that it was that bad either.
Well, not if they were all doing the same as well, because then that would involve shining a light on them, wouldn't it?
So just think to yourself and be honest. But I mean, if booze is your thing, then knock yourself out. It's not here. It's not a judgmental thing. But that's what I would love to do. I would love to be able to inspire people to realise that they have control of their own narrative ultimately. They have got the power. They've got the power. They've always had the power. Like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
You've always had
it
the
all
power.
along. Yeah.
It's amazing when you know that, isn't it?
Mm.
Because then it changes your world, changes your worldview, and just it brings the authenticity into the piece, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's
So,
a very
yeah.
inspiring message.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. But it's true.
Yeah.